Hello everybody and welcome. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to do a practice for Schumann Resonance spikes. Now, if you're watching this, chances are really good you already know what that means, but in case there's anyone out there who's never heard of it, I thought I would give a brief introduction. So in the 1950s, there was this man who discovered that the Earth had a particular frequency. His name was Schumann, hence Schumann Resonance. Later, scientists discovered that the planet had a frequency that leveled off at about 7.83 hertz. This has been known to fluctuate, and recently fluctuate in really massive, inexplicable ways. A lot of people consider Schumann resonance to be a signal from the earth, a call to awaken, to change our consciousness, to kind of grow up. And it can be quite challenging because, we are vibrational beings. We're bioenergetic. We are very affected by the earth and her own rhythms and movements and cycles and vibration. So what happens when the Schumann resonance spikes is we can experience sleep disturbances. We can lose our ability to focus well because it affects our brain waves. We can have vision changes or experience ringing in the ears. Our moods can change erratically. We can have a change in appetite or suffer from an unknown or general anxiety or dizziness. So I noticed that Schumann resonance had spiked over the last few days quite high, and I'd been noticing in myself some sleep disturbances and a really odd fatigue, a type of heaviness, kind of like when barometric pressure changes and the air kind of gets heavy. But instead of it being the air, it feels like the energy around me, my own external and internal weather, if you will. And I've also experienced the sensation of brain burn, is what I call it, where my eyes, my brain just feel like they are burning. I don't know what else to say about that, other than it's very uncomfortable. So on days like this, I find that I have to tailor my yoga practice to work with the Schumann resonance, and that's what this practice today is all about. I hope you enjoy it. So I'll say a little bit about this practice in advance going in. For those of you who practice yoga in a really traditional style, this might seem all very strange and odd to you. Especially those of you who are really into alignment and things looking a certain way, textbook way. Today's practice is going to be more about feeling and sensing through a practice. And I'm going to be doing some standing poses, but perhaps very differently than you would normally approach them. And I don't want to say a whole lot as I'm working through. Hopefully you'll be able to see that this is also going to be a very breath-oriented practice. And the breath takes time. So often in yoga classes, the yoga instructor is leading the breath. And that's great if you want to have real measured breath, or you want, to practice fitting your breath into a container. But if you want to free the breath and you want to really learn how to be with your natural breath, then no one can lead you in that. You need the time and space to feel it for yourself. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And it might look like I'm not doing much of anything in certain points. So look for, as you're, I'm not wearing very skin tight clothes because I want to be comfortable for one, and it's cold for two. So you won't be able to see maybe so well, but at the same time, use your attention if you're watching to notice how my body is changing with the breath.
And it may be very subtle, but I know that it will be visible if you pay attention to it. So this is a constructive rest position with the feet about hip width apart and about distant from the buttocks. If you were to lift your leg and have your knee right over your hip and then just place your foot directly down, that's about where constructive rest is. Now, if you are more comfortable with your feet a little closer to the buttocks, then you can maneuver yourself. And of course, take time to adjust and be comfortable and feel your body on the ground. Now, one of the things I don't want to be doing here is feeling as though I'm having to hold my legs up, especially with the muscles around the groin. So if I felt that, I would just kind of turn my heels out towards the edge of the mat, maybe even separate my feet a little more. Just let the knees kind of come in towards each other. It's just so I can relax more deeply. So here now I'm going to get quiet and I'm just going to focus on my breath. And maybe I should say something about what does that mean? Does it mean just noticing that you're breathing? Well, yes, that's part of it, but that's a very superficial part of it. We want to be aware and grow our awareness of the breath moving, excuse me, moving from the center of the body in all directions outward. So if you could imagine yourself as like a beach ball or some big ball, okay? And that the center of the ball is actually your body. Each time you breathe, you are breathing both into space above, on the sides of you, and behind you, right into the ground. So that takes a little practice. There's also space that you can breathe above yourself, and there is room to breathe below. So this is all about planes of movement, which I talk about in my Absolute Beginners classes. Really important to be aware of those directions and planes of space that the breath can move into. Now I'll be quiet. As I'm breathing, I'm feeling my body release towards the floor. So the little tissues and muscles in my feet are just letting go and they're dropping into the ground. Same with all the tissues on both sides of my spine, on my back. So anywhere else you notice that releasing and dropping into your support. So So now I'm going to start moving into some pelvic tipping. So I want to tilt the pelvis towards the feet, so my back arches. And then I'm going to tilt the pelvis back the other way. And I'm going to be moving very slowly. And I know that's a challenge for a lot of people, but it's really important in order to, one, help the nervous system relax. Two, help the nervous system process new information as a result of these variations in movement. And we want to have a deeply somatic inner experience of sensation. And so I'm doing this with the breath as well. I'm breathing in as I lift my back and tilt the pelvis downward. And exhaling as I bring the pelvis back and tip it upward. Now my spine doesn't leave the floor. I'm not picking my pelvis up. And so I'm going to be quiet now and just let you investigate that for yourself. So some of the things that you might notice as you're working is that you can feel the whole spine moving as the pelvis tilts. So it's not just the pelvis. The spine pushes upward. And when I say upward, I mean towards the head. And you can feel the crown of the head reaching into the space above you with the tilt. And likewise, you can feel the whole spine traveling downward towards the feet when you tilt the pelvis down. I'm going to rest now in a neutral place and just notice what I feel. Now I'm just going to press my left foot into the ground and start to feel that hip, that left hip, lift and everything, the pelvis turn towards the right. And I'm not going to do a very deep push to begin. I'm just going to push right now and feel myself tilting towards the left. I'm going to go back and forth between these two and just feel different degrees of lifting from that pressure of the foot into ground and the chain response up through the back body. Going gently at first. And again, I want to breathe in when I push into the ground. Ooh, back adjustment. And exhale as I roll back. So I'll let you do that for some minutes in quiet, and feel free to make the movement bigger and follow any impulse that you desire. And I will say also that timing is a big piece of this. So as you are moving and you reach an end point, you can hold there and breathe before you release back. And yawn. The other thing that can happen with Schumann resonance spikes is that it can make sleeping difficult. I didn't sleep so well last night. And I'm grateful to be yawning now because it's a really good sign that I'm helping my body rest and relax. Vagus nerve calming. So I'm back in neutral and just feeling the effects of that. And now I just feel like kind of doing a baby pose. So any variation of bringing the knees in, if you want to just hold the knees at the chest, feel free. I'm going to open the knees to the armpits. But if you notice, I'm not going to a pose. My arms are weightless in the air above me. My shoulders are plugged back into the ground, really aware of my supports here. The back of my pelvis and both hips are on the ground. I'm not rounding up through the lower back. My legs are some distance from the chest, but also weightless as I connect the joints, the hips and the shoulders back into the ground. Okay? So there's this, this really floppy quality I can get with my hands and feet. And this is where I start. And I find the strength through my core here. So I'm aware of this emptying out of the belly as the core, the deep core, falls back to the ground and to its support. And that's what helps to give lightness to the legs and feet. Instead of, no connection and I'm carrying my arms and legs. That does not feel good. That's effortful, and I want to be effortless, so I just relax into the ground, and that allows me to let go and be supported. Now that I've been here for a while, now I feel like I can go deeper into an actual pose. So I'm going to grab hold of my toes. You can grab ankles or anywhere, shins, that's comfortable for you. And then rather than, again, just kind of holding in some static place, I'm just going to rock on my back and open and close the legs as much or as little as I want to. So I'll be quiet now and let you experience that for yourself. If you happen to be looking at the video, it might look like I'm frozen, but I'm not. I've just found a place of a really nice stretch. So I'm holding and kind of melting into that. The thing about it is, I'll just say that the stretch I can feel in my inner thigh of my most distant leg, but I can also feel the full length of the left side of my back releasing into the ground. So it's a whole back line release that I'm feeling. It's just lovely. And just checking in with the right side, see if the same thing is there. And it's not the same, but it still feels good. So I'd like to do some standing work, so I'm just going to lower my feet, take a moment to adjust myself to a sitting position. Coming onto all fours. I'm not really doing child's pose here, so per se. I'm kind of doing a launch into downward dog, but I'm not going to go into downward dog directly. So I'm just kind of shifting my hips right to left, noticing how my hands feel against the ground and just checking that I'm not doing anything awkward, pushing away the ground, resisting. And my toes are bent back, so I'm getting a nice stretch through the backs of the feet, underside of the feet. But you could always be flat on your feet if that's preferable. And I felt ready to go into downward dog, so if that's a position you want to be in, you can push yourself up, or you could stay in like a child's pose or down puppy pose. Now, I'm not trying to do anything too posy here. I want to keep moving. I want to keep kind of sensing and feeling the relationship of body parts before I settle into something that is a little more linear, like this. And when I do down dog, I like to think of, if I was building a fire and I had a pile of sticks. I'm going to come down for a moment so I can explain this. And I was standing the sticks to cross and kind of support each other, hold each other up. That is the sensation that I want during down dog. Not that I'm having to, my front body is having not that my upper body is having to support me and my lower body is having to support me, but that they're both resting against each other at the pinnacle. So I'm going to start to walk forward, and here I'm going to take my time, and rather than just go directly to where I know I want to end up, because I'm feeling right now, the way that I'm doing this, I'm feeling a nice sensation in my left gluteal regions. So I'm just going to make my way to a forward fold, but taking my time and kind of exploring the sensation in that leg, maybe switching to the other side. This is rule-less yoga for rebels. For rebels and explorers. Okay, so now I'm coming into a forward fold, and I want to keep my knees bent, make sure that I'm not hanging off my back. I have a pretty open line through the back of my legs, so my legs can be quite straight. But this can look like this, and if that's sensation, you're getting enough of a stretch or sensation through the backs of the legs. That's all you need to do. You don't need to force yourself into, this kind of shape. And I really want my back to release here, especially the upper back and all the tissues there. So I'm just kind of flopping my hands on the floor because I can reach it. Of course, blocks can be really nifty here if you can't reach the floor. Plie. I'm going to start to open out into a twist. So I'm bringing my right hand to my right leg and just pressing my legs together towards each other. And that gives me some purchase to start to open through my middle back. So this is important. The lower back is pretty much staying in the same plane. What I'm trying to do here as I anchor myself, I'm opening through the chest. So this stays, like if I had a teacup there, and then this is what's opening from the middle into a twist. And I'm using hand against hand for a little more purchase. And I can really wring out my midsection here, lengthening through the spine, emptying the belly back. And then release. I'm going to give a shake because my legs are getting tired there. And I'm going to go the other way. Bearing in mind that I might not go there the same way I got to the other side. Hard work. All right, I'm separating my feet. I'm going to bend the knees and come up with the strength of my butt. And just stand for a moment. This is back to the breath. back to that sensation of the whole body being contained within a sphere. Like Da Vinci's man. And just noticing when I breathe, whether or not I can feel the breath moving in all directions. Noticing where I'm holding tension to stand and looking for ways through rebalancing that I can let go of the tension. So I'm going to step 1 foot back now and do kind of a variation of triangle pose. And so first I'm just feeling through both feet and the surface connection, wanting to feel each toe, balls of my feet, outer edges and heels. And connecting into the bones of the legs as well. So the bones in the lower legs, connecting into the knee joint and thighs. Just letting go of all the muscle tissue around the bones as much as I can so that I'm not rigid through this thigh or cramping through that calf, but the muscles soft around that. And it's the bones that I'm more relying on. Now, of course, we have to use our muscles to some extent. That's fine. We just don't want to be gripping things that we don't have to be using. So I'm just going to bring my forearm down to the thigh as I bend forward. And I'm going to explore now, exploring opening the chest forward. And maybe my elbow starts to reach toward the ceiling. Notice that my hands are real floppy. I'm not doing anything rigid, not locking the joints. Very fluid, very soft, very un-yoga. And I'm reaching toward the ground now, so, again, have your blocks if you need them. You can always stay at your thigh. I'm just going to start taking my hand down to the ground and open out into the triangle pose by straightening the front legs and back leg, front leg and back leg. Feels really good. So again, I am lengthening from the tailbone all the way through the crown of the head in that direction. Even the hand overhead can feel good. It doesn't to me at the moment, so I'm going to just leave it. And my tendency is to put some extra weight into my hand, so I want to make sure my supporting hand is not doing all the work. It's just lightly placed. And I'm going to scoop my hands forward, turn into a really quick pyramid with a slightly bent forward leg. And again, this might look for you, that whole sequence for you might have looked like this. Okay? So don't think you have to look a certain way. And I'm going to step the other leg back now. Actually, I think I'll turn around for you. So again, just feeling through the feet, edges of the feet, backs of the heels. Playing with my weight distribution, finding the bones, letting go of tension, softening what can be soft. Coming to the forearm by bending the front knee. And here I'm going to do a little bit of opening before I go down to the ground. So I'm feeling this shoulder on top, rounding out toward the back, opening to the back. Don't be in a rush to straighten the legs either. And also notice that this side might be quite different than the other. So respect what your body's telling you. I have a slight bent knee in the front leg here, more so on this side than I did the other. And I need to bring that forward, the front leg hip, I need to bring it back. And that helped me open the leg, and it also secured this. So these little tiny adjustments can really make or break your yoga practice. Shifting into a pyramid type of pose briefly. I'm going to step back into a down dog. And this one is perhaps a little wider than my earlier one. Now I'm coming onto my knees, and I'm going to kind of walk my knees out towards the edge of the mat to do a little bit of back extension. I have found that having my hips slightly externally rotated like this really helps me with back extensions, and it protects my lower back. So give it a try if you want. You can do a few shifts of weight forward and back, or to right and left. And then notice I've got my feet in the air. They're just kind of floppy there. So I'm really feeling the weight on the upper part of the knee and thigh. And the other thing I'm starting to work on is the relationship of my hands to my body, my elbows to my body. I kind of want to bring my elbows in towards the body and turn the bend of the elbows forward for support. And then rather than doing anything else, I'm just kind of holding here and letting the body soften, letting the chest open of its own accord. Letting the pubic bone fall towards the ground of its own accord. And then lowering all the way to the ground to rest on the belly. Woohoo! So taking, if it's comfortable, a face down Shavasana. You can kind of rock the hips or do anything to release any tension through the hips or the lower back. And then with the belly towards the floor, just tapping into the frequency of the earth. What is she doing now? What's she singing? Let that melody pierce all of your cells and change them. Come into entrainment with the earth. You're still in that sphere. So you might be able to feel the back body opening as you breathe upward that direction. You might be able to feel your belly moving down into the ground. And the sides opening to each side, right and left. Can you feel the length as well? From the bottoms of the feet to the top of the head. And I have my head turned to the side, but if that's not comfortable for you, you can always have your arms up and use your hands for support for your head. Feel free to turn your head as well. Letting that frequency, that ring of the earth, ring through you and around you. Okay, so from here, let's push back into a child's pose. And that can be any variation, legs together, legs apart, hips in the air, chest down, or all the way back on your heels. And when you're ready, coming to a sitting position. So as I was on my belly, I was remembering a chant that was written by, well, it might have been written by Sri Yukteswar. I know it was one of his favorite chants, but I'm not sure if Paramahansa Yogananda was the one who wrote it. But as we were on our belly and we were working with allowing that frequency of the earth to permeate the body, I was remembering how, you know, a ring can be a call to awaken. And that the earth, when she speeds up, when she sounds the alarm, she's calling to her children, wake up. And this chant is, well, I'll just sing it for you. Oh, my saint, wake yet wake, oh, my saint. Wake yet wake, oh, my saint. Wake yet wake, oh, my saint. Wake yet wake. You did not concentrate, You did not meditate, you did not concentrate, you did not meditate and pass thy time in idle words. O my saint, wake yet wake, O my saint, wake yet wake, O my saint, wake yet wake, O my saint, wake yet wake. I'm happy to receive your comments, questions, and suggestions. And be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and share the video with someone who you think it may benefit. Thanks for watching. Have a tranquil day.